And it's another juicy Transform Your Relationships Live. I'm Laura Rubinstein here with the awesome and wonderful Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Hi, Rhoberta.
Hello, Laura. Awesome, wonderful, and obviously, definitely energetic today.
Yes, I have a lot of energy today because we're talking about topics that I face every day with clients and prospects. When prospecting, and I'm constantly on the phone or on Zoom with new prospects who some I want, some I don't, and it's all about how do you identify the right prospect for you or for me, right? So I I really do have a process, and I think people need a process. And I know you have a busy practice, and not all the people who come to you are the right fit either, right?
Most of the people who come to me are the right fit because they're quite pre-qualified. But that's a different spin than that we need to put into the mix of what we're going to discuss today.
Exactly. So I love that you said that, because if you do the right messaging on your social media, on your website, and your intake forms, then the right people come down into this funnel who actually are going to pay you. Now, however, there is a caveat to that. Some of those people who are the right fit demographic, psychograph, like they have the right values, they have the right needs, you still may not want to work with.
Yeah, there are difficult people in this world. Now, certainly my practice is all about helping people deal with difficult people, but in this conversation, it's really important to sense the energy and the intent and the willingness somebody has to receive your services. Because if they're just going to say, well, I tried that, and I don't want to do that, and that's ridiculous, and I shouldn't have to do that, and you just keep reaching somebody who doesn't really value your expertise as someone who has a knowledge of what will work, you need to figure that out before you have anybody investing time or money.
And sometimes the behaviors that I've noticed in people, they put up roadblocks. They want the help, but they put up they're yes, but people. Yes, but what about this? Oh, but that's too expensive. Or this is, but what about this? Or I have too much, other obligations. I'll do it when. And that's a really, to me, it's transparent. It says you're not ready, or you have a little bit too much fear that you need to work through. And, I found myself in that position actually once when I was buying a house. And it has to be perfect. It had to have all these little nitpicky things. I think I went through, and I'm, sorry to all those realtors, but about 6 realtors before I gained the courage to buy, and it's because I had too much fear, and I didn't know how to overcome that. And if you're a realtor, you could identify that and help your client through that, or you can say next faster. Really, you can say, let them go faster. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, is how to know who to keep helping and who to let go, because they need to figure it out for themselves, how they can come to the place of readiness. And, if you don't let them go soon enough, you will feel like you did something wrong. Like, why didn't they buy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the whole idea of objections, which is what you were mentioning, when people have a lot of objections, it's really good to hear those early on and make an assessment about whether you want to deal with those objections. You think those objections actually make sense to you. They may make sense to the other person, or it may be just becoming, as you say, from their fear. But it's important to make those discernments to know that if you're going to have a long-term client, that it's going to be an optimal situation as much as it can be before you undertake it. And don't be afraid to say, I don't think this is a good fit, because it's your life going by too.
Yeah. And the thing I always think about is I want them to be happy, and I want me to be happy, and I want to have us to have a good relationship with my clients. So I think backing way up is first know who you want as a client. right? Those demographics, what age are they, what occupations, what parts of the world are they from, what's their status maritally, and whatever it is, how can you identify them? You also want to know what they value. And a lot of times, if your prices are higher than not the bottom basement thing, and that's not your client, you want a higher end client, then you have to also identify, do they value professional help, and are they willing to pay for it? And it's a really good thing. I often will ask people I'm working with to create an ideal client profile. And one of the things on it we will ask is, do they hire like a CPA, or have they hired professionals in other areas? It could be even therapists or counselors or coaches. Are they the type that hires professional help? Because if they're not, and they're the do-it-yourselfer, then that would be a different set of services to sell, right? So you want to know if you're looking for that, the do-it-yourselfer, or that. And thanks for the love. I saw that, Hazel. Really appreciate that. So
yeah, it's an important distinction right there, because people who are a do-it-yourselfer, they come in a couple of categories. One can be that they have a lot of knowledge and they just want you to fill in the holes for them. They don't want an entire structure because they've done a lot. And the other can be coming from that fear that you mentioned, is, don't push me, don't make me grow bigger than I feel inclined to grow, and I don't want to pay for it anyway, or maybe I'm not in a position to pay for much of it, so can I get just a little bit? And so these are really important things. And to engage in a pre-qualifying call or an opportunity, like in my field, I don't do any free calls. So people get an offer for the first hour for only $97. We get to explore the issues, look at all the things that are happening and that they would like as a potential outcome. I help them with a few things, and then I have had the opportunity to see, is this a good fit for me? They have the opportunity to see if it's a good fit for them, and we can then, and I send them an email with the actual links to where they can find my programs, because they're not online. You can't do anything except take that $97 new client offer. And then we determine in that call whether it's a good fit. So I think that the things that you're talking about also fall in that category. So many questions, like you're saying, whether you have a questionnaire, you have this interview, and it really sometimes takes consultants and service providers quite a while to realize that they really can say no to having a person work with them.
yes, no is a fair word, and we can do it graciously. And I love what you highlighted is have a preset of questions, a list of questions that you can ask when somebody calls or inquires about your services. And I've done this in different ways on the different ways people contact me, whether it's LinkedIn or when they call or they email. A lot of times I like what you do, which is you have a low entry way to have a consult that's really a get to know you and give them some value at the same time. And then and they put down some money, so that's one qualification step. They're saying they have a budget for this and they're willing to it's worth them getting some relief to pay for it, in this area, or support in this area. If they're not willing to put anything down for it, that's a telltale sign too. And I've started doing that. It's like, oh, somebody saw me speak and they're like, oh, I need help with my social media. I'm like, great, we have a team for that. And let's talk about it. And I'll either give them a 15-minute to ask them that list of questions, or I'll say schedule a 60-minute for a fee, and then we can make a plan. And then they can either, implement with me or consult with me or go elsewhere with that plan.
Perfect. And they get value for the money, but they've also said, as you said, they're pre-qualified. They know that they're willing to pay for services. But there's another piece to that as well, that when somebody comes and wants to engage with me, my time has a cost as well. And I previously did offer a free 20-minute consultation. And where it showed up for me as not a viable option any longer was the number of no-shows. It didn't have any money in the game, and so they didn't feel like need a commitment to make it happen. And there my time went. So this allows people to say, yeah, I'm really wanting that. I'm really interested. And they demonstrate that with the low entry point offer. And I think that's very, very useful. And I love what you're suggesting there too, is I will give you a plan. You can interact with me and implement with me, or you have a plan, and if you're a DIY person, you have something of value that you received from here. And no doubt there'll be a few people who will take the plan and go and look for a lower price offer to implement the plan. But it's really important to be clear about who you are and what works for you, what you offer. Like you said, you know who your ideal client is. And your ideal client is not a person who would balk at paying a fee to explore options with you.
Yep, exactly. I find that when I go and propose, so we have the initial call, whether it's paid or it's been a short one, where I find out if they qualify. And then I may even ask them to pay for the proposal, and I actually call it something else as a deliverable. It's kind of like a marketing strategic plan. So we can come up with a small plan during the 1 hour consult. But if they want a written plan with the gaps and opportunities and a whole strategy, they can pay for that. And then we can go from there if they want help implementing it. So there's different levels of engagement. We can nurture, the clients through this process of increasing the support for them. And I like to meet people where they're at and then determine if where they're at is where I can help them. And a lot of times I'll say, you know what, I'll be here when you're ready. It's all good. See
Yes.
you soon.
Well, I just had a person write to me who had the 1 hour consultation recently, and she's new to the idea of toxic people. She's new to the idea of narcissism. She's just recognized that that's been what's happening in a long-term marriage.
Wow.
And so we had the consultation, and I thought it went well because she had all these new thoughts. So I'd never thought of that. That's a really good idea. We were really going along in a good way. And then just a little while ago, today, I received an email from her, and she said, I'm not going to move forward with you, and I'm going to share my feedback. And her feedback was all about fear. Her fear that came out as, well, I didn't like this that you said, and I didn't like that you said, and I'm not sure that would work. Well, if you come to somebody who is an expert in their field that has worked for thousands of people, and then you get something like that email that says, here, I'm brand new to this, I've never done it before, and here's what I don't like. And obviously it's not a fit, but secondarily, it tells you something that not only is it not a fit, but a person who has huge fear to get the results they want and turn around and say, you have a problem, meaning me, that, what you offered me is not good. It was like, really, all right, you don't really realize that you just told me how many issues you do have and how convoluted those issues are. And that, I just wish you well and, have a good journey because you're going to stay stuck. And there will be somebody who will take your money to tell you what you want to hear. But I thought you wanted a solution.
Yeah, I noticed that especially in the counseling and therapy fields that people, they don't really want help. They want to fix, but they don't they can't get past where they're at. And, a lot of times they'll hire people who will tell them what they want to hear, which is, okay, you're here. You're just here. You're stuck. You're bad. Oh, poor you,
Or, and in my field, that old chestnut that people always laugh at is, and how do you feel about that? That's not my world. I am here to help you find solutions, to lead you to solutions, to make your life better, to have you emerging empowered. If you're not ready to go on that journey, I understand completely. However, when you are, like you said, I will be here. But until you're ready to be in that state, move toward that state, then you can sit with that for a while. And there are many, many people who will there you and walk through that. And it's not that I'm unkind or pushy or anything. It's just I've done this for so long. I can help you because I've already solved these problems before, So these are important considerations when people come to you. I mean, you have so many aspects in which you have gold to give to someone. And when you start fitting in the pieces that they need and then say, maybe you haven't thought of this, then you are, such a gift to them. And if they're ready for it, they will accept it. If they're not ready, you can talk about the fear they may have. And if they're, in objection all the time, you just simply know they're not your person.
And that's why I love these list of questions and know the answers you want as a practitioner, as a business owner. What are the qualifying questions, like that you need to ask? I've worked with financial advisors, organizers, counselors, coaches on these lists to help them clarify how they're going to know if somebody's going to be a good fit for them. And part of it is, are they ready? And part of it is, are they a good psychic match? Are they going to are they coachable, right?
Yes.
Are they grateful? How do they react when they're angry? Sometimes I've actually had clients ask their prospects, how do you respond when you get angry? And you might get an inkling, or if you can talk about a specific issue that had happened between them and someone else, you can listen, you can hear. If they're doing that with those people, they'll definitely do it with me, right? Don't think you're the exception.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something you teach. It's related to that. Always behave the behavior. Always believe the behavior.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question because if somebody is feeling tender or sensitive, maybe you have an idea or a business notion that you are so excited about and it's like your baby. And then you come to someone like you and they say, well, what about this? Or did you realize that there are 3 podcasts with almost similar names and they're so married to their baby that they object when you suggest that they should make a change? It's good to know, like, are you really open to new ideas or are you absolutely set on this path? And here's why it would be good to be open. And they give you their objections, good information.
And I find that I will do that a lot. That's a perfect example, is like I will let them know the best practices and the reality of the situation that they may not be thinking about and that they love this brand. And I'll give them hey, you're the one who gets to make the decision. So you can keep your name. And here is the reality. And the
implications.
And the implications. And if you're willing to deal with those implications and keep your name, then that's your choice, and they're the boss and I'm, the guide and the guide to say, hey, over here would be better, but I'll be over here when you're ready to come back. And sometimes they have to go around and around. And if you're gracious to this whole process, they may come around. And not that I care if they come around. I just want the whole process to be a really nice, I want them to feel respected and I want to be respected. So I treat them with respect and I let them know, and I stand my ground with respect. And that tells them they're free to make their own choice. And if it's with me, great. And if it's not, that's great too, because it would have been a headache otherwise.
Yeah, and that's again a quality of life issue for the provider. You know, the dollar is often not worth the headache. And when you can head that off at the pass, it's a good idea.
It is. We don't need any more headaches here. And here's
No.
the thing, if you really get good at this, you'll get more ideal clients than not, right? You'll just start attracting them. You'll get really good at having the messaging like you do on your sites, and your messaging and your podcast and anything you put out there is very clear who you work with, what you do. And, we can get clearer and clearer on what it's going to take too. Like for me, it's going to take a certain budget, and if you have this budget, you'll get this. If you have this budget, you'll get that. And it's because, we're not Star Trek here, and we do have to live and get paid.
Yes. People often say, because I have clients in different parts of the world, do I have to pay you in US dollars? And well, actually, yes, because I buy my groceries in US dollars. It's just an interesting thing. And of course, stay in your own country. If your dollars go further and you can get the help that you need, I understand that completely. But it's not an option for me. I don't buy groceries or pay bills in your currency. So, it's an important thing for us to take note of. It's nothing wrong. It is just a fact. And some of these things just are facts. Like some people think that, if they push the limit, like my sessions are an hour long, and you can see whether the person says, oh, I can see that our hour is just about up. No, I'm not hard-nosed about it. I'll go 10 minutes over, no problem. Somebody's in the middle of a thought or a feeling, and I'm happy to do that. But you can tell the respectful clients who say, I can see that we only have 5 minutes left. And then you can see the other clients who are trying to push it and see how far I'll stay on the line.
Yeah.
And then I have to send a boundary. And, these are the things that you learn when you're in the consulting field in any way, being a service provider, that you too have to have boundaries.
Yeah. And that really helps them to be the better client too in their life and everywhere. So when you're courting new clients, you want to watch those behaviors. You want to create that qualifying process, and you also want to know the messaging. And that's why I said start with your ideal client profile and evolve it. And I know you've been evolving yours, and to the point where now you have a whole new messaging with Emerging Empowered. And I love it. And because that's where you're taking people, that's telling them that's where they're going to get to. And that in and of itself is qualifying, right? Because if they don't want to be empowered and they just kind of want to be listened to and they're there, then that's that self, like, no, I don't want empowered. I want to just feel like I'm justified, what I'm feeling, which you do that too, but you involve them, right?
Right. Well, Emerging Empowered is the name of my community and the courses that I offer. The intent of working with me, though, at any level, is to emerge empowered. Whether you stay in your relationship or you decide that you're going to leave your relationship, either way, you want to feel empowered to make good decisions, to speak up and tell your truth, to have strategies for managing communication and conflict and ways to set and non-negotiable boundaries, all of those things. So you will, whether or not you intended to, begin to be emerging empowered. So why not call it what it is, right? But like you said, some people think, oh, I don't even know if I'm ready to emerge, or, what would I have to do to be empowered? But, it's a good thing to aim for. So it's worthwhile. But also, of course, there are people who are just, wanting to go in nanoseconds and baby steps, and that's fine too. Emerging Empowered is definitely a nanosecond and baby step program.
That's great. I just love the whole the messaging of that, because it works for a lot of businesses, but I love that you're doing it in yours. And when we can do all this great messaging, like, doing the qualifying and doing as much as we can. And there's only so much time we have to do it. We could put it all on our podcasts and in our videos and on our social media and in our sales pages and on our calendar booking forms and charge for that. And still, there may be some clients who get through that are, or people get to the place where you're going to propose a larger package to them, and still they might not be the right fit. So that's when you get into the proposal process or a client agreement process or a combination. And you must set expectations on both sides. What you're agreeing to do, the scope of the work, because in my field, if you're a consultant, the scope creep happens all the time with web development or social media marketing. And we set boundaries. We always have to be setting boundaries. So I highly recommend you get really comfortable with that and letting people know in a gracious, very respectful way that this, here's what we did, as you know. And I've had to remind clients 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, this doesn't include, it's not included in this, but I'm happy to give you a quote if you'd like, or every once in a while I'll include just something little and then offer them but if you want the whole thing, then this is it, right? This is what you want next. And it's, if they get to the point where they feel like it's nickel and diming or it's too much or out of their budget, that's fine with me. Because like you said, we all have groceries to buy. And although I'd love to be a pro bono shop, that might be in my next lifetime.
Maybe, but the pro bono shop is not necessarily good for somebody in a developing world of business. That it doesn't teach you anything to be in a pro bono shop, because you then think that people should be there to help you, guide you along the way at no cost, and then you go and make money. It's the wrong exchange.
Well, there's definitely got to be exchange for sure.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. But these are really important things to look at. And when we're creating new clients, our greatest advantage is to be very clear within ourselves.
Yeah. And very clear within ourselves and clear about the expectations that you want to manage their expectations based upon the clarity you have. Because it's great to have clarity over here, but if you're not clear with them over there, that can be a recipe for miscommunication and some tension between clients and prospects. But I'm very clear. Repetition is good. And more importantly, and I know you would agree with this, is put it in writing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Have disclaimers, have contracts, be as clear as you possibly can. Because then it's not something you have to use any energy on. You just say, refer to the contract.
Right. And so there it is.
There it
for
is.
Clients.
Yeah.
And maintain your sanity through it, right?
Yes. Save your sanity if you're about to lose it too.
Exactly. And I love that you have a podcast called Save Your Sanity.
No, that's true, but that's help for toxic relationships, and you just want to save your sanity in every area of your life. So Laura can certainly help you with that when you're in your business development phase and you're ready for growth, or you're ready for an assessment, or you need your next best steps. So, always hire somebody who's ahead of you on the curve and that they have a proven track record.
And one other thought I had was, a lot of times people are so desperate for new business that desperation comes through. And I think if you stand in a place that, if you know, like you said, clearly what you deliver, the value you offer, and the type of client who needs that and you want to serve, and you stand in that, the flow will happen of clients. And trust it. Don't say, I need to land this next client, because you don't. You need the right client.
That's right. You come from scarcity, you end up with tension. And that is not a great starting place because you can't give your gifts when you're tense and anxious.
Indeed. Oh, good stuff today. So we look forward to working with you, and check us out, transformtoday.com, forrelationshiphelp.com. Anything else you want to share?
No, I think it was a good beginning. We're going to be talking about business topics for the next couple of times. And even if you think, oh, I don't have a business, I won't listen in, business and life are very closely aligned. So I hope that you'll join us then and bring your friends and
Yeah.
suggest that they have a listen too.
And you're always dealing with businesses, whether you're at the grocery store or the hairdresser. So might as well be mindful. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks, Roberta. And we'll be back, everyone, with another Transform Your Relationships show in a couple of weeks. Bye now.
Bye-bye, Laura.
Bye.